Now, let's look at the question here. Use an identity to write the expression as a single trigonometric function or as a single number. So here is the one. 2 times cosine 22.5 degrees. There is a square here. And then minus 1. If you remember the double angle formula, and that's what we want, double angle formulas are actually from some formulas of trigonometric functions. For example, previously we learned cosine alpha plus beta, that will be equal to cosine, sine. And here is addition. Here you do subtraction. That's the formula says. First angle is alpha, you put right here, alpha. Second angle is beta, you put beta here. That's the way I remember the formula. So I recommend you to remember in the way I did. When you see cosine one angle plus another, read yourself. Cosine, sine. If alpha equals beta, then basically alpha plus beta will be just alpha plus alpha. So then you have a double alpha. If alpha equals beta, here will be cosine alpha times cosine alpha, which is cosine alpha squared, minus sine alpha times sine beta again. If we assume alpha equals beta, here will be 1 square, subtract another square. Remember, by Pythagorean theorem, sine alpha plus cosine alpha squared, sine alpha squared plus cosine alpha squared is 1. If we do subtraction, cosine alpha squared minus sine alpha squared, we get double angle. We get double angle formula. But if we add, we get identity, which is 1. So this is what is going to help you remember. When you do the comparison, then you remember the formula. All right. Here is the thing. If I replace sine alpha squared by 1 minus cosine alpha squared, have a Pythagorean theorem here, you know I can take this sine alpha squared to the right, then cosine alpha squared will be 1 minus cosine alpha squared. Sine alpha squared will be equal to 1 minus cosine alpha squared if I take cosine alpha squared to the right. So here simply I replace sine alpha squared by 1 minus cosine alpha squared. If I take cosine alpha squared to the right, positive will come to be negative. Now here subtraction is distributed to the 2 terms inside. Positive 1 comes to be negative. Negative cosine alpha squared comes to be positive. And then you add those 2 cosine alpha squared together, you get this one. And that's exactly we want to use right here. 2 times cosine alpha squared minus 1 is basically equals cosine double is 22.5 degrees. You double that, you have a 45 degrees, and that's going to be cosine 45 degrees, which is radical 2 over 2. That's the final answer. So this one you should choose. By the way, is that previously we used 1 minus cosine alpha squared to replace sine alpha squared. You may also do the same thing as replace cosine alpha squared by 1 minus sine alpha squared. So that would be this one. Okay. Yeah. Replace again cosine alpha squared, this one, cosine alpha squared, this one, by 1 minus sine alpha squared. And you have a minus here twice, so then it's going to be minus 2 sine alpha squared. 1 is positive. And you can make a comparison between those two. If you want to use cosine, then 2 times cosine alpha squared is positive. If you want to use sine, there is 1 minus 2 sine alpha squared. They are opposite. Okay? All right. I'll see you next time.